The show really came into being because of the whole relaunch of what was the Devon Guild of Craftsmen and is now Make Southwest. I've kind of noticed that quite a lot of fine artists these days are using all sorts of techniques which we more readily think of as sort of craft techniques, working with clay, making things out of unpromising materials like David Mack with his matches. I've chosen things which I like, which I think are interesting, and that explore new ways of working, and particularly also I wanted to include people working with new technology, so a rapid prototype and computer-aided design.
We live in a digital age, so I use digital technology. You know, that's the techniques that we do, you know, we have at our disposal. And I have taught myself how to use computer code. So in actual fact, they are drawn using computer code. Within the show, there are 3 series here. So there's my iceberg pieces, and then the harmonic vases, and what I call the random growth pieces. And so each series will have a little, app that I have coded. And so for the iceberg pieces, all of these are unique one-off pieces. Every time I run the piece of code, it'll then create a different form each time.
I work with waste, so I collect a lot of my salmon skins from this wonderful factory in East London. So I just start with working with these raw waste materials and then tanning them into a leather or preserving them, their natural beauty, and then cutting them into strips, weaving with them, or weaving with them modularly as well, patchwork quilting, which are from these, even the offcuts of a lot of my projects. So nothing's really wasted. So I really try to work in this kind of zero waste consciousness. So the tanning process takes quite a long time. So I do it in a really traditional, artisanal way. So everything's done by hand. So that takes me around 3 to 4 weeks. And then on top of that, if you want to dye the skins, that takes another 2 weeks or so. So it's quite a long, arduous process, but it's really worthwhile in the end because you get these beautiful, luxurious materials to work with.
In the exhibition, I've got a variety of materials, from marble, Sadaria marble, to bronze, to clay, and fiberglass and iron casted pieces. The piece Bow Wave, for me, kind of shows all the processes that I work with the drawing stage, the grid stage, and the actual carving out. So it's almost a piece in a metamorphosis from those 2 stages of drawing and carving. And for me, mapping my sketches from my book onto the piece, which are precisely as you can by hand and eye, and measuring tools, is drawn onto the piece, and then I spend various amount of time working out all the angles and the directions that I want to carve, the different planes and surfaces of the design.
So the work I have in this show, there's 2 bodies of work. There's one with glass and one with ceramics. The glass pieces are sheet glass that are shaped through slumping with a particular process, tooling process called reconfigurable pin tooling. And the method is where you put a sheet of glass on the tool, and you put it in the kiln with the tool, and the glass, just through gravity and exposure to heat, it softens and then shapes on top of the pin tool. The other body of work is some extruded vases. The porcelain vases, through the dye and through the extrusion process, they do their own thing, and really hard to control. It's really hard to predict, and particularly with porcelain, the vases will kind of take the shapes whatever they want to take, and however much you try and kind of control it, they'll always be different, or be kind of individual in the way they come out.
In the show, I've got winnowing and ash basket, and they've both been made in the last 2 years, and quite large works for me, and they both incorporate the same process of steam bending and hand carving with elements that can move in the wind. This piece is made from ash from the Scottish borders, from a fallen tree, and everything has been pinned with birch. And it's become more and more important in the last few years that there's no metal joining things together and no artificial materials are joining it, that it is made entirely of wood. The carving inside was physically very demanding on the hands, so an awful lot of blisters and things, but a repetitive task. But the steaming is where the difficulties come, because it's such tight curves and everything's under immense tension. So it's trying to bring it all together, making all the parts, and then that final assembly is particularly challenging, but exciting at the same time.
I put one sculpture in the show, which is outside in the courtyard here. It's a granite piece, and it's in common with most of my work over the past few decades. It combines an element of randomness with an element of order. So the overall shape of the stone was a given, if you like. It's a naturally eroded boulder. And I suppose what I'm really interested in is the interplay between that randomness. I mean, in the same way as with my drawings, the randomness is actually what happens when the paper is folded. It's to do with the viscosity of the ink and to do with the texture of the paper and the absorption of the paper. So there's a kind of randomness in that part of that process. I'm really happy with the show and how it's turned out. I must say that Flora Pearson has made it extremely easy for me. It's been a real pleasure because all I've had to do is choose, and she's actually made everything happen. But it's a real delight to see the work here with enough room to actually breathe, with enough space around it. And I think, you know, I'm really seeing this space in a completely new light now with this amazing work in it. So I'm delighted. I hope people enjoy it.